Am I missing anybody? All right. Go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. So those at HQ, can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Commissioner Lawrence, and I saw a second for Teoflat. Is there any discussion? Don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. All right, passes unanimously. We'll go on to the consent agenda. We have healthcare EFT claims totaling $135,090.21. Healthcare claims, EFT claims totaling $69,385.07. Claims vouchers 12089 to 12117 totaling $70,670.57. We have claims vouchers 12118 to 12171 totaling $353,766.07. Do we have any questions? All right. Chair would like to entertain a motion to approve all four consent agenda items totaling $628,911.92. Can I get a motion? Moved by Commissioner Chan. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Teoflat. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor of the consent agenda items, raise your hand. All those opposed by the same. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And public comment. Is there anybody in the attendees side that would? Okay. We have a Rebecca Miner.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Miner, and I am the interim superintendent for the Edmonds School District this year. And I just have been going around to our municipalities and our other elected officials meetings to introduce myself, say I'm extremely grateful to all of you for your partnership in protecting and serving our community's most wonderful treasures, our children. And so I know we've done some coat drives and some vaccine drives in the past. I've heard about those, and looking forward to other ways to partner and serve our community with you.
Thank you. I also understand that you have picked a point person for the fire department to work with for educating the students.
You know, I have not gotten quite that far in my learning yet, but
oh, I understand that was recently done. So I just wanted to say thank you for doing that, making our lives easier, having a single person to talk to at the school district.
Yeah, well, thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners for the doctor? Nope. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other attendees? So please raise your hand. All right. That concludes public comment, and on to the fire chief's report. Chief Hovis.
I am here. Okay. Good evening, commissioners, liaison, Todd, staff, guests, and meeting attendees. If the new interim director of the school district is here, thank you. Edmonds High School graduate. I know we have some commissioners too that are local, so thank you for being here today and giving some public comment. Commissioners, we had a busy late afternoon, so I apologize for emailing you a supplemental update of South County Fire pandemic, first watch operational report, data, and a few other items. So I'll not be including those in the report tonight, but if you have specific questions, if you have reviewed that, I'm happy to answer any of those questions. And then also we have a couple other news items from the fire chief report that we're going to get to right now. So with that, all right, commissioners, we're excited that we now have Tina Anderson joining our team as our new warehouse and logistics specialist. She brings over 15 years of logistics experience to South County Fire. She previously worked at Boeing and has honed a number of skills. We welcome her to our team and see her as being a strong knowledge of asset handling and also a history of workplace safety that she will help us as well. So we want to welcome Tina to our South County Fire family. The picture that you're seeing is her getting her card to get back into the building, and also receiving the welcome boot, which she has applied her signature to. She's now the custodian of this boot. It's a tradition that we started when the RFA was formed. And you'll notice that Brian Knoyer, who you recently met, is handing Tina that welcome boot. So again, welcome Tina to the team. Next slide. Commissioners, the class 2022-2, our special summer academy of lateral firefighters and firefighter paramedics, have now graduated from our special academy. They're in their post-academy period and will be transitioning to operations very soon. So those folks you already met. So just want to let you know that that's your group that is joining the team, and you'll see them in the streets in operations very quickly. And the last update, just want to thank all members of South County Fire staff, our honor guard, IFF Local 1828, all of the retirees that were present there that day, and also the staff at the venue. There was a lot of work that went into this event, which is an unprecedented number of retirees. And we were able to have a great group there that day. I want to thank the commissioners that were present. And we also live streamed the event for those retirees that couldn't make it, and to their families and members of staff. That live stream is now on our YouTube channel for those that want to see it that were not able to attend. And I have that link. I'll send to Melissa Blankenship so we can include it in the minutes. And with that, that concludes my fire chief report this evening, and would welcome any questions from the board.
Any questions? All right, not seeing any. Thank you, Chief Hovis.
Thank you.
President Hoover, union report.
Thank you, Chair Daniels. Hello, all commissioners, guests, and liaisons, and public. My name is Tim Hoover. I'm giving the IFF Local 1828 report for tonight. I know you haven't seen my face in the last couple of meetings. I apologize. I was last week in Ottawa, Canada, at our 56th annual IFF convention, in which I unfortunately missed the board meeting. Well, it was late when I was logged into the board meeting, and then I also missed the retirement ceremony, which, as Chief Hovis just mentioned, I also wanted to thank South County Fire for your partnership in putting on such a ceremony that really honored the legacy of so many of our members. I think there were over 30, almost 35 members that were recognized, in that not all could attend in person. I want to thank the commissioners and the staff that attended, and all those that worked behind the scenes. Our South County Honor Guard did a fantastic job helping plan and work through the ceremony. I want to just really say thank you to them. I know tonight you guys are also going to go back through the vote of the contract. I wanted to say thank you for the support and for the vote last week on that. And I think that we are working in a very good relationship I appreciate the ability to communicate, the ability to work through issues with the board and administration. With that, I will take any questions.
Does the board have any questions? Commissioner Chan? You're on mute.
Actually, it's more a comment than anything else. So are you related to the real president, Herbert Hoover, our 31st president?
No, sir, I'm not related. I'd rather
Because-
be related to the vacuum cleaner company, I think.
No, because when our chair mentioned President Hoover, I said, that sounds good. No, I just want to comment that the unit did a really good job on the retirement, and I see everybody happy. And also, you always see everybody like 30 years, 20 some years. So everybody basically life, dedicated. Of course, we got the one particular firefighter everybody stood up and really cheer for him. That was something. And so I just wanted to thank you and did a very great job.
Well, Commissioner, yeah, Commissioner Chan, with the leadership of the commission and the administration, this is a department that members want to come to and stay at for a career. It really is a place that provides a lot of opportunities for them to succeed in their careers and really fulfill whatever pathway they want to go down. And that's something that we've done through regionalization and becoming bigger and being able to have those specialties. And it really is a great place where people want to work.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there any other commissioners, board members that wish to? All right. Thank you, President Hoover. Yeah, I was there in attendance and it was a great ceremony. All right, on to unfinished business. Item A is the reaffirmation of the unanimous board vote to approve the 2021 to 2025 local 1828 collective bargaining agreement. This is being brought back because we had an issue with the Granicus system and we weren't 100% positive that it met the 24-hour deadline of being posted on Monday by 7 p.m. So the chair would like to entertain a motion to reaffirm the unanimous board vote to approve the 2021 to 2025 local 1828 collective bargaining agreement. Is there a motion? Vice Chair Rowland motions. Is there a second? Commissioner Fahrenhoff seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say, oh, Commissioner Kenny, you have a discussion item? All right, you're on mute.
Yes, sorry, yeah, for discussion. So I just incorporate by reference my comments from last week that the contract is very positive and fully supportive of it. But I do want to sound one slightly negative note, which I also sounded last week, and that is for this week, I'm disappointed that the actual contract is not in the packet. I mentioned this last week, and this is another opportunity for it to be in the packet so the public can see it. And it's not there. It's not on our public website. It's nowhere. And I don't understand why, because this is the public's work. This is the public's money. It's going for one of the most important public services. And it's actually a very positive, there's nothing to hide. It's very positive and there's a good story to tell here. But it is the public's work and the public's money, and they should have an opportunity to see the contract. And so I'm surprised they're not able to see it prior to our vote, well, last week, and then again tonight. So I hope that anybody that looks at this in the future will contact Melissa Blankenship, our executive assistant, and ask for a copy of the contract if you'd like to see it electronically, because it is the people's money at work. And it's a public document, and I just encourage people to be aware of what's happening with one of the most important public services that the public receives for fire and emergency medical services. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinney. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by the same? Great, motion passes. On to redistricting. with Melissa.
Can you give me just a moment? I need to get Bob Schweitzer on the line or
Okay.
on the meeting.
Sure. Can we skip ahead to the volunteer firefighter program? Okay, we'll come back to agenda item B and go on to agenda item C. And with Director Hollenbeck and Chief Hovis. Which one of you wants to cover that?
Well, I will start it by just saying thank you, commissioners, for asking and the opportunity tonight to bring back as unfinished business item on page 61 of your packet, volunteer firefighter support program update. I've asked Lieutenant Peary Hart to be here tonight, and you will see him at least on my screen in the upper left-hand corner. Not everyone has met him yet, so maybe he could wave to those other members of the commission. That is him up there. And we have an agenda bill that starts on page 61. I'm going to turn this over to Human Resource Director Hollenbeck to really start the discussion. The majority of the content is in the agenda bill, but specific to our recent recruitment. And within it, we'll kick it back over to me, and then I think we'll go over to Lieutenant Hart in order of events. So with that, Sandra.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, commissioners and liaison Todd. I was gone on vacation last week, so I'd like to say hi to the new folks, new faces in the room. So I do think most of the information is in the agenda bill. We've had conversations, obviously, in the past about this role, and like many things in the last couple of years, COVID sort of brought this to a screeching halt. But after we sort of got our ducks in a row with the really critical positions we were trying to get back on track with, we still had this on our plate and wanted to make sure we got going again with the recruitment process. I want to say that this is the first recruitment process. It doesn't mean that it's the only recruitment process. We're still kind of learning what's working with this role and what's not as far as recruiting goes. I know that Chief Hovis is going to talk in a minute about perhaps some other ways that we may be able to bolster this program. But this first round, we wanted to really just repeat what we had done just prior to COVID, and went out with the same recruitment materials that we had before, which, as you saw, garnered 15 applicants. We go through a questionnaire process because we learned last time that we had candidates who ultimately were not qualified. For example, they didn't live in an area where they could respond in a timely manner, or they misunderstood what the role was. So we start by kind of weaning out those folks who really weren't qualified, or this wasn't the kind of role that they wanted. And out of that, ended up with 3 individuals who we feel are good candidates. We hope to be able to bring on board. We're kind of in the middle of that hiring process. I will say that I'm saying we very loosely. My recruiting specialist, Hetty Levinsky, has been the person that's been running with that. But we're anxious to see how this goes. And like I said, still exploring other options. And appreciate and look forward to working with Lieutenant Hart and his cohorts on looking at those candidates, making sure we get the right folks who can be really helpful out there and be very responsive as we need them to be. So with that, Chief, unless you have anything you think I've missed, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Sandra. Commissioners, the agenda bill goes through a little bit of history and why I crafted that with Director Hollenbeck is just to set the stage, because we have some newer commissioners, and also to just give a little bit of an update on what we are now as Regional Fire Authority. We had 5 different agencies that all had volunteer firefighter, including some members of our team that are at the deputy chief level, like John Chalfont, Chief Maxwell. Is really kind of an entry into the fire service, and including me. We have current members of staff, and I'll name a couple of them. Firefighter at the time, Boris Fairberg, who's now firefighter paramedic. Boris Fairberg joined our organization late in Fire District 1's history, became a professional firefighter, and now went to Harborview, and he's a paramedic. We have firefighter Henry Patterson, one of the last volunteer firefighters to join our organization, Fire District 1, who is one of the 3 paramedics that went to the Central Washington University Extension Program. Now, he's a paramedic. And I know a certain commissioner knows one of these individuals pretty well that was a firefighter one day, Aaron Williams, who joined the Linwood Fire Department. He was in my volunteer firefighter recruit class in 1994 when I joined the Edmonds Fire Department. and became a volunteer firefighter. I was fortunate to get hired. We had a testing process that included District 1, Edmonds, Linwood, and Mount Lake Terrace. And my first volunteer supervisor, and somebody that wrote one of my 3 letters of recommendation, I introduced him a little bit earlier. So as fire chief of South County Fire, I'm not interested in some of the contentiousness that surrounds this program. I've had a real good opportunity to tie in with Lieutenants Hart and Peck and firefighter Cannon and talk about some different ideas where we can think about looking at the program differently and also essentially creating a pipeline of other people to join and help our organization, some of which may want to be professional firefighters or firefighter paramedics in the future. But for me, and provided me an opportunity, even with 2 members of my family at the time working for the Seattle Fire Department, going to the EMT program at North Seattle College and joining the Edmonds Fire Department, getting my training over at the Mount Lake Terrace Fire Department and having that opportunity, it was a blessing for me, my family, and was a great thing to be part of this organization. So I want to talk a little bit more about the future. And I want to talk a little bit about what I want to bring back to the commission at a later day, because this is still under development. But one of the things you have with this team of chiefs, and I'm thinking about Chief Isatelo, who was a volunteer firefighter, and also Deputy Chief Wells. Both of those individuals are on the Everett Community College Fire TAC Advisory Board. So they're stakeholders at that level with the program, where they go into the associates program to get EMT. They end up training at our facility, and they've been a resource for us, essentially one of the pipelines that bring us professional firefighters. And there's another program up in Skagit County, which we're not as connected with now, but we hope to be. And there's a program down in Pierce County, Bates, that's been there forever. Chief Isatelo, I know you went to Bates, right? And some other people did here too. But there's a new program that's been developed at North Seattle College, and it's a fire science program. They've always had EMTs. They are the biggest developer of EMTs in the state of Washington. Fortunately, we were able to develop a relationship with them pre-COVID to pipeline their students to get their necessary ride-along time with our crews. It's been a great opportunity for them to gain some experience, and also we have hired some of those individuals. They get to know us, we get to know them, and they get to know where they want to test for, and hopefully have an opportunity to work at a department like South County Fire. In coordination with the Seattle School District and the Seattle Fire Department, there was a movement put in play to be able to have a fire science program in King County. One did not exist. They had one at Bellevue Community College, where I got my fire science associate's degree, and that program went away. So there's limited opportunities, and part of the initiative of the former mayor of Seattle that's been carried on by the current one, and Fire Chief Scoggins, and now North Seattle College, is to give people additional opportunities to know about the fire service. They have a lot of people go through the EMT program, and it's a great opportunity for them. They put that in place this year. I'm very pleased to be the only fire chief in Snohomish County that is on the Fire Science Program Technical Advisory Board there. We are going to be going down tomorrow for essentially a job fair. I want to show a graphic right now. We're sending our team down to the Fire Career Day. We have a number of personnel going down there, but I'll highlight MSO Deanna Herbert and recruiting specialist Hetty Levinsky as part of the team there. We've also got Nicole Picknell, who came to our organization and is a CRP as well. Brett Kuhn, who's currently assigned to the training division, and one of our newer probationary firefighters, so they can connect with the event itself. I don't know how well you can see it on your screen, but if you look down a little bit lower, I don't know if you can zoom that in on the patches essentially of the organizations. You've got some, I would call them heavy hitters. This is supported by the State Council of Firefighters as well. These are our big departments. Thank you. So with this opportunity and being on their advisory board, we have a different opportunity at South County Fire than Chief Scoggins does. And that opportunity is to accommodate the requirement for their students to fulfill their 100 hours of internship that they need during the completion of their program. It's a 2-year program. So you'll have a class of 2023 that's coming around the bend, and then you have the class of 2024 as well. We have talked a long time about, continuing to build upon our fire core program. Through the pandemic, we have pivoted, and I'm going to use that word just one time in this meeting and maybe this week, but we have done that to be able to enhance and deliver essential education and connect with the communities. That has actually accelerated what we do. But as we emerge from the pandemic, the same brick and mortar, hand to hand, not 6 feet away interactions that our communities have come to know, and we can continue to train our people, let's say, in ACT, that it does really well when you have a physical connection. We can build on that with the Fire Corps. That is an opportunity for those students to get into that program. We also have an opportunity to build upon our current volunteer firefighter support program, currently budgeted at 24 positions. We currently have 4 people there. And I want to give credit to everyone in our organization, everyone here today, every part of our organization, the retirees that have already left, and all the good work that's been done. But we've had 4 people trying to carry the load at 24. When I called Lieutenant Hart a little bit earlier today and said, hey, the Zoom link is coming. Here's, what I'm going to say. And you probably, I'm looking at the screen speaking from the heart. You can always say whatever you want, Peary. It's going to be you're going to be third. You're going to be in the hole or third up. You're on deck right now. But we have this opportunity for those interested parties that live in our RFA. And this school is just what I would call the Northgate area. It didn't take me too long to drive down there to get my training. We have Sound Transit that's going to be coming to us, and it's a beeline right down to the college. It's a great opportunity for those members, especially in their second year, where they have the fundamentals down. They can join our program. They can get those hours. They can, I like to call it ride for the brand. They can have an opportunity with us, fulfill some public service, build their resume, and also through the policy that's already with the RFA, they came from the fire district. It gives them an opportunity to get some additional training, and it also gives them an opportunity to have some preferential points to put themselves into a position like the 3 people I mentioned before. I didn't have that opportunity at the time. We didn't have that robust of a system in the city of Edmonds. But I will say it's a great pipeline to be able to do that. The great thing about this is, commissioners, I know I have approved a vacation on Thursday. I've given that back. I have a Zoom meeting with the dean of the college, the dean of the division itself this program falls under, and the director. And they want to partner with us because those patches that are there, those King County agencies, they don't have the unique program that we do. And I'm going to bring back more information after that Thursday meeting, but it's all about connections. That's why we've been invited down there. And I guess building upon that, with the honor to be able to serve as president of the Snohomish County Fire Chiefs Association, we have the other chiefs that have a lot more volunteer firefighters within their program. They're really struggling for recruitment, and these programs are IDLH. So there is an ability and an interest, not yet a commitment from them, with their commissioners, I should say, but a high interest from the Tulalip Bay District 15 Fire Department, District 17 Granite Falls Fire Department, District 22 Getchell Fire Department, and at one time the Marysville Fire District. But my understanding is Marysville's Fire District is going to discontinue the program in 2023. But I will add North County Regional Fire Authority is also interested in being a pipeline. So essentially people could maybe have 2 patches. This is the way I think that we can really build upon this, provide some additional service, get the folks that are doing this now some relief, and also bolster our fire corps. So I look forward to reporting more back about this. I'm a little cart in front of the horse on this, but I'm excited about it. We need to give the update. I want to thank HR Director Hollenbeck and her team for getting the recruitment out there, vetting the numbers to where they're at. 3 to 4 is 7. That's a good number. It's not as good as it could be. And with that, I'm going to close my comments. I see a hand up. So Chair, your discretion. And then I was going to turn it over to Lieutenant Hart.
Commissioner Farnahoff, did you have a question for Chief Hovis?
I just had to make a quick comment in there because you mentioned Chief Scoggins. I worked for the city of Seattle for a bit, and Harold came on board. And if anybody's met Harold, within 5 minutes, you're talking to a superstar, with no doubt. When I found out he was from Glendale, California, I said, really? Were you with the fire department there? And he goes, yeah. And I said, by the way, do you know a guy named Don Biggs? And I thought he was absolutely going to pass out in front of me. He goes, how do you know that name? He recommended me for this position. I says, he was my fire instructor in 1983 when I went through the fire program at Glendale Fire Department. And ever since then, of course, anytime Harold and I see each other, that's a bond. But what Chief is talking about, the ladder, the approach, whether it's explorers to cadet, from cadet to another pipeline, really gives us that advantage to look at people, try them out, for example, especially if they come up through an explorer or cadet program, see if they're a good fit. And then, as you said, points in favor of hire. That goes a long way. So I just wanted to echo and strengthen what you've said in terms of position. Having come through the volunteer fire program myself for many years, I know what it's like. And so I'm just giving you a hurrah in your corner there, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Chief Lowndes is down there that succeeded Chief Scoggins. They do a neat thing where they have a picture of all the chiefs that have come before. It's actually pretty fun. So I know you've been down there. So if you get a chance to visit headquarters, it's a great experience.
Thank you, Commissioner Farnahoff. Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes, Chief Hovis, thank you for the report on activities for volunteer firemen. I'm thinking that a recently retired commissioner will be very happy to hear what you had to say, especially that you're going to push through any opposition, the roadblockers or whatever to getting a full-fledged volunteer setup going there. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I should clarify, I owe $1 in the tip jar. So IDLH is that immediate danger to life and health, that the part that our firefighters do every day, that these folks would have the opportunity in any of those 4 other organizations to be able to do that, as well as support what we're doing right now. There's so much difficulty, I would say, just supporting the program we have right now. That's really, really the need. And the commissioners aren't telling you anything you don't know. There's a lot of need here in South County Fire. People are picking their departments at this point, and we need, this is a race for, human capital and the best of the best. And if we can, just like law enforcement has done, or the private sector, be able to make these connections when people have their first interest and they're learning how the basics of this, and they have the desire to fulfill that, and we can get them onboarded. That's why commercials are very expensive at the Super Bowl. You want to get at the head and heart. So I just wanted to, thank you. Sandra helped me with that. I owe $1 for the tip jar. No more abbreviations. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Lieutenant Hart, Vice Chair Rowland. Oh yeah, he took his hand down. Lieutenant Hart, did you want to add to the presentation?
Yes, I wanted first of all to thank the chief for his very heartfelt words. Appreciate it, Thad. The commissioners, staffs, and guests, my colleagues and I are extremely grateful to the chief for his vocalization and support of our program. We're looking forward to the consideration of implementation of his ideas, as well as those of some of the commissioners with whom I've spoken over the past week to build our program from the current 4 members. So thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Vice Chair Rowland.
So a couple of questions here. I've heard that number that was budgeted at 24 people, and that's kind of where we put the cap before, but in the packet material, it says that for the last year, we only budgeted 35,000 for 2022. Can you explain it? Is that just the current cost of the volunteer force, or do we budget for a lower number, or what is that?
It's associated with the stipends for the program itself, depending upon the rank of the actual, firefighter, if they're promoted. That's really the fundamentals of it, to include, uniforms and those sort of items. So it's been pretty easy to have underrun in that portion of the budget when we've only had the small amount that's there. Really want to focus on trying to fill the existing spots now, but if and this would be part of an update to bring later, and if this works with North Seattle College, I'll ride shotgun with Chief Isotalo and Wells up to the meeting, but I think this could build upon itself, and I don't see at this point expanding on that, commissioners, but it'll until we can get this solidified and have this pipeline here, but we will certainly look at that. We've got 4 shifts, and at least 2 people should be on the unit, ideally, when they're there. So we just need to figure that out. And I think part of this is going to be the conversations with the chief's staff, the college, and also the Lieutenant Hart and his colleagues, to see what is reasonable, what is supportive. And I don't know if any of the current members are thinking about retirement or anything else. So we just need to think about this in a thoughtful way. And again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I know there's more than 24 people currently in the program right now in their first year. So the goal is to try to find 80. But some of those folks are not going to live in our RFA. They may be associated with other programs, in their home area. So we just need to think about that. So the answer is, Commissioner Rowland, that's kind of the what behind the why on the current budget, and it might be subject to change, and I would bring that forward in the chief's budget for 2023. Gotcha. Any changes? Thank you.
That was my assumption. I just wanted to kind of confirm so I understood it correctly. I like the term that you used, ride for the brand. That was good. I'm going to use that some other time. One other question is, I know that when I go and look for these positions or want to get information on the position, it's kind of buried on the website. You go to the About Us, you can get to the volunteers, and the first thing that's on the website there is for the Fire Corps, which is kind of the volunteer outreach program. But then the section about the volunteer firefighters is kind of just a little blurb at the bottom, doesn't really explain what they do, doesn't explain all the stuff that is in the job openings when they're posted. It isn't there. So people that are interested in it don't even know what it is until a job posting comes up, if they're lucky enough to go to the job site while that's listed. So I think that definitely we could do some improvements, at least on the, I know that we're trying to get a pipeline of these paramedic students as well. And if that, fills our need, then that's great. But I just want to see that, if we have a dedication to this program, that we're actually investing in, trying to recruit for it and doing so in a way that people can, if there's not a job posting out there for a volunteer position, there's no way on our website, even for the firefighter positions that I could find, and I could be wrong about this, to subscribe for updates, to even know when these positions get listed on the website. Again, I could be wrong about that. I do work in tech, but it's kind of a physician heal thyself. Sometimes we have blind spots too. So I definitely like to see that be a little bit more clear. And then a question for our HR director. It seems a pretty high attrition rate of 15 applicants. I thought I had heard a higher number before, but 15, I thought it was like 18, but anyway, probably just numbers, right? But that there were 15, and then that got whittled down to 3. What do you think really contributed to that, and how can we make sure that we're more transparent if there are things that we can do to make sure that we're not underselling, overselling, or that the applicants are fully informed when they're going through the process? Because I read the job description there. I just wanted to understand how 12 fell off.
Sure. Great question. Oh, sorry, Chief.
Sandra, if I could go first, I just want to hit the first two parts or comments from Vice Chair. The first being, I forgot when we talked about budget, some of these folks are going to be interested in Fire Corps. They might be working full time, then going to school. So that's another option. So I'll work with Chief Fitzgerald and the team, because there may be some impacts to the Fire Corps as well. So I don't want to leave that off. Second thing, yes, the website, as we've recently experienced a couple times now, they can have some idiosyncrasies, if you will. One thing about our website, it's fairly static in its nature. It's hard to do those rotations. So we hear what you're saying, and we'll discuss that with the team. The other aspect of this is I think I introduced the internet maybe to Lieutenant Hart 27 or 28 years ago, and going to websites was a thing. This newer generation, the Facebook, Instagram, those sort of, Twitter, even, those sort of things, that's a lot of what they're using to get information. But the website being secondary is going to be important, especially to, basically make that pipeline flow, because if they're in the program, they need to find that information. And I struggle with North Seattle College's website, even looking at their EMT program too. So I think it's a challenge in public agencies, and I'm not making an excuse. It's just what I think, but we'll definitely take a look at that. And that's everything I had to say about that. But social media seems to be the key. I'm not on it, but people use it, I guess. So Sandra, over to you.
Thanks, Chief. And yeah, good question, Vice Chair Roland. I will actually add one more piece to the website piece. If you remember when we revamped, well, you might not, because this was a little bit predated your time, but it was also in that same time frame that we revamped the website. And we actually had a discussion about that. It is on our radar, and here's why. What we want to do is really have a continuous recruitment process versus just a periodic one. And what we talked about when Leslie and I were discussing that part of the website was, since we knew we weren't going to be doing recruiting for it during the COVID period, we didn't want to necessarily field a lot of questions, frankly. So we are actually, I was talking with Hetty Levinsky that we do need to pull that back up and resurrect it so that it is part of that ongoing kind of volunteer option. So on our radar, and appreciate the comments, because we were thinking the same thing. As far as the attrition of the candidates, that's actually fairly consistent with what we've seen in the past when we've recruited. And I think part of it is, again, two things. Your very point about being more descriptive before people apply. But that's why we do the questionnaire, because what we found was that we were getting candidates who lived outside the service area. So there's really a few reasons why people we went from 15 to 3. Some live outside of the service area, could not respond in a timely manner. So that right out of the chute, if they live up, in Anacortes, they're not going to be able to do this. Some people think, even though I think it's pretty clear in the job description, they misunderstand that they think it is IDLH and it's not. So when they learn that it's not IDLH, then they at that point say, no, I actually want to go somewhere where I can get that actual live fire experience. So some people self-opt out at that point. Some people get on with other agencies in the interim. So as we're going through the process, they actually get on, as they usually throw a bunch of applications out there and cast a wide net, and some of them got picked up by some other folks. So they go down for that reason. And there's one more that I can't remember. Oh, it's the time commitment. Are you able to do the drills? And some people will say not all of them. So if that's the case, then we disqualify them if they're not available to do the minimum requirement for drills. So it really is consistent. I think the answer to that is better communication up front, to your original point.
Gotcha. And those drills, I actually stopped by and visited the Station 15 there and spoke with Lieutenant Hart there and the rest of the crew, and I want to commend them for sticking it out, especially through that tough time period. I don't know if maybe this is just a side conversation, we can kind of talk about it, but when 4 people are pulling the weight of 24 and taking, I believe you guys said 41 calls, was that in the first 4 months or first 3 months? I can't remember if it was quarter or 4, and I always mix up those two when people are talking. But I mean, that's a lot, especially out of regular hours. So I want to commend them, and if there's anything we can do to show our appreciation, I think we owe it to them for that, because a lot of them have been doing this for a long time and probably would like to be doing other things. Maybe they all have a sense of strong duty. I do know that, talking to them. This is something they love to do. But at the same time, the years get there, and it's good to see that we're bringing in new blood, and I want to thank them all for everything they've done. Yeah, thank you. I believe Director Hollenbeck, you have to throw something in that jar as well. IDLH. Could you just run? I'm getting all these eventually, but you said the fire certification, or what was the program?
So Chief, you want to take the stab and explain that in a little more detail so that they understand what that is? I think you gave them the acronym, but let's have you explain it maybe in a little more detail.
Just quickly, I don't want to take time. away.
IDLH.
Oh, IDLH. So, there's a lot of rules and regulations for firefighters, but it's a WAC 296-305, and it talks about immediately dangerous to life and health, which essentially means you need to be protected in an ensemble, with a helmet and gloves and protective equipment, your pants, your coat, your boots, and also a self-contained breathing apparatus. Essentially, it means that there is a fire happening, and it's not just an incipient sort of food on the stove event, that you need to get to work. And I'll look at Ops Chief Isotelo. Did I get everything in there? Okay, I see a thumbs up. Yes.
Right. And just one last question for you. Was I counted in those three? Because I know I did put in the application, but I was just curious for those numbers, if those included me or if that was 3 plus me.
You are included.
Okay, so we got 2 out of 14 then, other than mine. All right, just wanted to understand where that all fit in. Okay. I think that's everything I had. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rowland. Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, well, thank you. I realize your agenda bill, your commitment to the volunteer firefighter. Actually, by the way, Chief Wetzel was 16 years old when he started as a volunteer. So I'm not sure it's still available there. One thing I want to say is that when I joined, was only before Monte Carlos, before Edmonds, before Linwood. And we still have about, I think at that time, we're 20 volunteer firefighter. And now if you look at the station, the workforce were expanded. I think the number should be even higher. So I think our goal, you said 80, is that what you're thinking your goal is?
No, 80 would be about the combined members of the North Seattle College Fire Science Program over a 2-year period. But Everett College, where Chief Isotelo and Chief Wells are part of, they have a separate group. Skagit has a separate group. It might be a tough one to get into because they already have an ongoing deal up there, and I don't want to make anybody mad if I go to the Tulip area north, but so we might stay away for a little bit from that. But I think those two are one in our county, one just south, would be enough. As far as a long-term goal, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to fulfill what we have now and do what is budgeted and support Lieutenant Hart and the team. But I surely think it could expand. And like I mentioned with the Fire Corps program as well, and I left off, we had a member of our Fire Corps that actually, without any firefighting experience, we were able to pick them up about 3 years ago. Chief Stedman was still here, a veteran as well. And there's just opportunities to make connections that we can expand upon currently. And I think Sandra did a great job of talking about through some of the questions, those opportunities to streamline our messaging. And we can work on that as well. And Commissioner Lawrence, while I have the opportunity, thank you for your comments, because I don't think I thanked you. So Commissioner Chan, did I get everything that you had?
No, I'm just thinking about the program itself. Commissioner Lawrence thanking one of the retired commissioners, really thank you for that. And actually, at that time, you remember that the fire commissioner, basically, one fire chief wanted to shut down the whole thing and forget about that. And the reaction from the fire commissioner say, no, we want to revitalize it. We want to give you as much budget you want. And I think at one time that we have assigned a training fire chief to help and all that.
We still have that, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's critical. And you mentioned about this, the fire chief down in Seattle. Remember the article that Northwest Asian Weekly they mentioned, and at that time the fire chief did say that get them when they were young. I think that's critical on the exploration. The whole pipeline to build up. So I'm just here to say we will willing to give you whatever it takes to do to build up the whole thing. But I think the one thing emphasizing, respond. If there's any earthquake or anything happen here, many of firefighters not living in the area, they are the only our hope to do something within our area. So that's critical. Or any major thing happen.
All the good points you made, Commissioner Chan. would probably have to be thought about once we get back to par, because it's a cookie jar that other employers are going to want to put their hands into. I mean, Todd Bullard was a firefighter that trained up with me at the same time. He was a member of District 1. Now he's retired. Lieutenant Steve Potts over in Mukilteo. I could keep going. Lieutenant Ryan Hendricks at Eastside Fire and Rescue. There's a lot of people, and those are more from my generation or a little bit younger. We've Tom Parallett is the person I mentioned that was part of the fire Corps program here. But you know what? If you're in the jar and somebody else is putting their hands in, we'll have the first opportunity to do that, which is great. And we need to think about the attrition that is naturally created in this type of a program and think about what that looks like when we get to the right number, because those same chiefs I mentioned, Chief Otts, Chief Haverfield, Chief Shaughnessy, from those 3 agencies I mentioned, and Chief Cermak, they're having the same problems recruiting. We just happen to have the connection to the colleges and have them, one in our RFA and the other just to the south. And we are the biggest agency in Snohomish County. And we're covering, to your point, 270 to 300,000 people that reside here, plus the daytime population. So the answer is yes, it needs to be proportional. And yes, you're right about, when we think about the bigger events. So, but I'm just trying to take us one step down the road in a positive direction with the rest of the chiefs and staff. So
Actually, I just a question for Chief Hart. Chief, are you still teaching in the UW Business School?
No, I'm retired from the university.
You should, okay. So, but you're teaching in business school for a while, isn't it?
For a few years, yes.
Few years, okay. So you probably understand the succession plans and all that stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that you got all the resources you need to build up your infrastructures and for the program. So, and then also Chief Pack is also retired from his medical practice, right? So he got a little more time now. So I think that's I want to make sure that is being think about. What I'm saying is that at least me, I think the rest of the commission is really support you, Chief. So just come back to us, whatever resources you need, and we'll definitely we'll give you whatever you need.
Thanks. I'll now with I think we might have still some comments, but based on those comments, and I'll have my meeting on Thursday, I'll talk with the rest of the team. And I did want to mention that Lieutenant Peck could not be here today. He wanted to be. He is in, I believe, well, he is celebrating a holiday and somewhere other than here. I'll just leave it at that. It's this open internet recorded meeting. So he really wanted to be here though. So thank you.
Actually, I'll give you a quick, after the retirement meeting, so I went for lunch. And this guy saw me wearing a fire thing. He said, "Oh, are you a firefighter? Are you working in fire department?" I said, "I'm just fire commissioner." He wants to be a firefighter. So I suggest, well, this volunteer program and all that. And then I actually encourage him to go down to the North Seattle Community College tomorrow. Just check it out. I said, just get around, go to fire station, ask people. But he said he didn't have any friends or family that work in the fire department. Well, that's how you got it started, volunteer, that's how you get to know people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fairnahoff.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Commissioner Chan had just mentioned, and I think it's a really important point. By the way, just so you know, I work with the Indian tribes, and I have like this nickname. As most people, they have running deer, and they have different names for tribal members. And I've been ceremonially given the blanket. I'm registered as an elder, for example. I can eat at the elders complex, but I'm always the guy that shows up and gives them bad news, right? So my nickname is Dark Cloud. So, so what I'm about to reinforce and say is that if we have a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, and by the way, if you don't know what that means a massive earthquake 9.0 or greater off the coast of Washington, Oregon, and southern British Columbia, that will also create magnitude 7 or or higher shaking for around 4 to 6 minutes inland where we are. All right, that's a big event. It's going to be bigger than the Civil War. FEMA has planned for it for years. The point being, if your staff on your department right now, your paid staff, are exactly what Commissioner Chan had mentioned, don't live in the area, don't expect them. Okay, plain and simple. So we're going to have to rely on a lot of layers of self-help, including the CERT program, those things that we train our citizenry to, volunteers that we have trained for higher level skills, allow them access to equipment that can make a difference. This is going to be paramount. We live in unprecedented and historic times right now. Simply just look at world events. We have 2 ongoing pandemics right now, possibly on the brink of a third. We see enemy nations such as Russia invading Ukraine. We have on the brink of relationships with China suddenly going sour. North Korea is aiming a missile at us. And within the last 60 days, as this is unprecedented for me, because I used to work for FEMA. I was on the whole improvised nuclear device detonation team. And anytime we mentioned missile attack, that was quickly dismissed as something that we don't want to talk about because it's a no-win situation. FEMA in the last 60 days released new guidance and documentation on enemy missile attack versus nuclear detonation from a suitcase or a van. This is how the entire mentality of what we're looking at as a society, and then at the state and local levels, we need to be asking the same question that Chief is asking. How do we not only get those people and make an attractive carrot and get them in the door, but I think it's for broader purposes too, not just daily business, but we could be looking at something in the near future, whether we like it or not, where we're really having to compensate for a resource loss. And I think that needs to be some of the subtext that's included in the conversations. So Michael, dark cloud out.
Thank you, Commissioner Farnhoff. Anything else on this topic? None appearing. We will thank you for the presentation, Chief Hobus, HR Director Hollenbeck, and Lieutenant Hart.
Thank you, Sandra. Good. Thank you, Perry. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, so we are going to go back to unfinished business, item 8B, redistricting as a result of the City of Mill Creek annexation, for discussion with Executive Assistant Blankenship and Schweitzer from Snohomish Data Systems.
Thank you. As you've seen in your board packet, the agenda bill pretty much describes what we're presenting tonight because the City of Mill Creek has annexed into the RFA as of August 1st. Population of the new service area is required to be incorporated and new commissioner districts to be created. So we have again solicited the services of Mr. Schweitzer of Snohomish Data Systems, who most of you will recognize and who has done a great job for us in the past, most recently with the 2020 decennial census redistricting. And I wanted to, I've invited him to again attend this meeting to answer any questions for you. So Bob, if you'd like to say anything on this or just wait for some questions to come forward, we can do this either way.
Oh, I'm ready to dive into any questions.
Do any of the commissioners have, board members have questions for Mr. Schweitzer? Liaison Todd.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm kind of new to the party, but I'm part of the cause for the party. So if I can just get a little kind of an overview of, I've seen lots of pretty pictures, but I'm having a hard time scanning through them. What was the general philosophy, or how do you spread the lines? I know your objective is to keep them even-sized districts, but you're also looking, I assume, for not too many changes. But throwing 21,000 more people into the pot sure changed things around. So what was the general strategy, general philosophy? Thanks.
Can I get screen share for a moment?
Done.
All right. Sweet. All right. So in this, here is the Mill Creek area to be added, and it has the new basically 21,000 people to be added. So when it came time for me to show, to adjust the lines, I worked in a west to east direction when I created these. When we first got started, Highway 99 has always been the border of the second district, except for this zone up here. So the first thing I did was look at how much can I get to 99. So I assigned everything west of 99 to the second district. I wasn't quite able to do all of that. There is this little bit of an area down here in Linwood where I did have to cross over 99. Instead of doing it with the fourth district, there was no clean way in the fourth to pick up a little bit here. I ended up doing it with the first district and splitting a precinct in a very minimal way. The next step was with the first district. This area of the first district here, I ended up taking and going up to the first district along the line here, consolidating it more and preserving the 405 to what is this 525 line here. So trying to make this a much more compact, very easy to describe boundary line as well. At this point, I had really taken a lot out of both the fourth and the third district. And so both of these districts ended up needing to grow towards the fifth district. And that's really when the work started happening to the Mill Creek area of trying to find as many whole precincts that I could assign in the Mill Creek area. And then at the same time, make sure that the border I make with the fifth, that it grew as well and in as much of a simple fashion as well. Let's see if I've got, so in here, this is the area where all of the busy work ended up happening. The nice clean lines that we had over on the first and second, well, the precinct boundary lines inside the Mill Creek city are not as clean and as simple as some of the other ones. A lot of the precinct lines don't even follow roads. Like along here, this is, I believe, a backline fencing, whereas this one follows road and here's some roads. But there are some cases where the precinct boundary lines do not follow roads. So that was the basic direction that I took in creating these lines. So in this, you can see, this is where the fourth district used to come into and across 99. And now the only deviation west of 99 is down here. The first district has grown north up to this street. And then the fourth and third districts just sort of meander along here with only minor changes from the past. And then of course, the third went this way, the fourth went this way, and the fifth came down into Mill Creek this way. Yeah. There are two split precincts. There's one precinct that's split right in this area. I can believe that's, yeah, it's this little precinct here. This shouldn't be any problem for the county to deal with the split precinct. Garth has great people working under him. So we do have a split here, and we have another split. Here it is. And then so here in Linwood 1, we just have a simple split right along 220th out to the precinct border right here. So it should just be a matter of finding those to the north and finding those to the south in the split precinct here for the elections department to quickly incorporate this split as well. That is another one of the approaches, is I do try to minimize the splitting of precincts, because I really don't like to make more busy work for the county.
Yeah, so I'm presuming when you got a split precinct, they have to kind of look at that one by hand to make sure some of the ballots are different from others within that precinct, which could be confusing locally, but since we don't go to polling places anymore, everybody gets it by mail, it kind of is taking care of itself. Is that right?
Yeah, it's mostly automated. Almost all of the addresses are now geocoded to a longitude and latitude. So once they bring in the new boundary file into their GIS, they should be able to tell instantly what are all of the addresses that are assigned in each one of these, and be able to immediately get the fire districts. But any hand checking that they might need to do, yeah, I like to make it as easy as possible for any hand checks.
Second question is kind of a practical question, just curious. We talk about Mill Creek 1, Mill Creek 2, Mill Creek 3, etc. as our precinct numbers. What you've got here are different numbers. Is there a translation between those, or we've just used shorthand? Or if somebody asks me the question, I'm just curious.
Well, this is the layman's term that most of the precincts are known by. And this is what came to me from the county. The county just knows the bulk of them by the long name, but they know both the actual number to these names.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if I look at the map and I'm looking for, I'm Mill Creek 1, I don't see Mill Creek 1 on your map for Mill Creek, because it's Mill Creek 301 or something or other. I just didn't know. I don't recognize those numbers for precinct numbers. Most people don't really pay attention to those, but Mill Creek 658 is not a number, or 302 is not a number we see when we do
Sure.
Mill Creek.
Yeah, that's just the way the county gave me the file. So that's just one of the various numberings that they know it by.
Okay, thanks.
As long as the boundary is the same, which it should be. This is the new 2022 file that was published by the county post the state redistricting.
Okay. Thank you.
Next.
Bob, I have a quick question for you with that map that you were just showing.
Oh, sure.
There was a terrace, which is just to the east of Martha Lake. And I was curious why that was gray. Everything else is colored around it.
Yep. Those.
Yes.
Yeah, those are outside of the fire district. So if we look at it, so we look at the map this way. Zoom in here. So these are areas that are technically, I believe, outside the fire district.
And part surfer. Still. Yeah, if Eastman was on the call, he and I looked at those during the annexation vote. There's these weird little things where city limits don't incorporate those pieces. And they've been surfer islands that were in unincorporated county between old Fire District 1 and old Fire District 7 that didn't get snagged when the city annexed, because those are not within city limits. So I think there's some manual process that Bob was talking about, whether you have to negotiate with surfer on who does those, because they sure don't want to serve those little islands necessarily.
I didn't know that Mill Creek had islands, because I know the city of Linwood does, so that's new information. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you also have some of your little islands that are outside of the bulk of the fire district as well. Your fire district line in this particular area goes straight down here, but my assignment of whole census blocks the census block does not go and follow along the fire district line. And this census block that takes up this little section here contains much more of this area over here. And so it made sense to not include the people for here when I'm only needing to pick up the land area there. When it comes to redistricting, I'm only allowed to use the census blocks from the most current delennial census. So it is a matter of me trying to pick and choose the correct census blocks that best represent your fire district. So there are cases where I will be picking up a little bit of area outside of your fire district, or I'll be excluding some area that is on the border of the fire district as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Teoflack, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and Mr. Todd, one thing I just want to add, which is something that a lot of people misunderstand, including our former chair, Urban. I had to keep reminding him of this multiple times. We vote for every single position. So for instance, I live in District 1, but on my ballot, I vote for District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 at-larges. The significance of the boundaries for the districts determines if you can run in that district or not. So I just want to make sure that point is clear. And so with Mill Creek, it means you can run, looks like it's kind of like separated in two. So that means maybe like a Mill Creek resident could run for 4 positions, so 2 at large, and then the orange district and the red district.
Thank you. I was not clear on that, and I will make sure our voters here understand that. We were thinking it was strictly districted and then at large. I had not picked that up. Thanks.
Oh, thanks.
Vice Chair Rowland.
Kind of an old saying, I think everybody's heard it, is one of the most dangerous things is the most dangerous phrase is we've always done it that way. So whenever there's, I think it comes from Computer World in the 1970s. I looked it up before this meeting because it came to mind. So it seems like one of your kind of core intentions was to try to keep the existing borders the same. How much, I have 2 things. How much did, where commissioners currently reside factor into that? Because I know that that's been part of conversations before about redistricting, and also just looking at where our fire stations are in their service areas. Did that factor in at all to these lines being drawn?
The minimal change aspect, first and foremost, is basically a key part of redistricting. To try to minimize the appearance of doing any gerrymandering is to try to minimize the amount of change. The more change you do, the potential is greater that there is gerrymandering going on. So that is one of the reasons why in the redistricting world, not making many changes is a good thing, because people fear that evil word of gerrymandering. So that is the reasoning behind my "that's the way it's always been done" approach in your verbiage. So yeah, the taking into consideration the commissioner's addresses, that is actually a part of the redistricting law. In RCW 29A 70010, section 4, item D, it says no redistricting plan should either favor nor disfavor a political party or a racial group. So by my intentionally trying to favor all commissioners equally, I'm not disfavoring any individual commissioner. So that is the logic that I took into consideration for preserving the commissioners in their districts. Now, none of the changes that I've done here were necessitated in keeping the commissioners in their districts. So I didn't make any have to make any real decisions on where I grew this based off of where the commissioners were located. So I didn't have any have to make any unusual deviations due to the commissioners' addresses. All of the districts grew in a relatively logical pattern. The second being the one that, had the commissioner lived on the north side of 99, that probably would have made an impact on the decision to use 99 as the primary border for the second district. But that was not the case with the fourth commissioner district. So yes, I do take them into consideration, and luckily there was no real impact on the drafting of this plan.
Sure. Yeah, because I guess to your comment about the whole gerrymandering, I totally understand. I think there's an active civil rights lawsuit about the redistricting of Washington State based off of how they split up Yakima. I totally I know a person that's involved in it, so I'm kind of familiar with that. Looking at the map, I think splitting up Mill Creek is an interesting decision, and I don't know if these maps are final or how this all works, but you know, we are also, you know, looking at some of our other contract cities and incorporating them in. And as part of that, you know, whenever you split up a city, it doubles their kind of their representation, so to speak. I don't know personally how I feel about the decision to make Mill Creek and split it up into two. I know it's hard to get these numbers to work, but whenever I'm looking at maps, I never understand how all these lines are drawn. So you know, take that with a grain of salt. It's just logically, it seems to me that people want to be represented. People that are most like one another want to be represented by somebody who's most like them. So, you know, looking at maps, sometimes you just don't see that, because it seems like sometimes we split those up. But any thoughts on Mill Creek, if there was a way to keep it contiguous by, you know, shuffling a few things around, or if that's advisable, or what are your thoughts on that? Because I don't want to feel like we're doing favoritism in this redistricting, and then when we do it again for acquisitions of other cities or annexations, that there might be, you know, complaints about unequal representation.
Sure. Well, one of the biggest things was the fact that the 5th district in this location was basically primarily an island unto its own previously, before Mill Creek came in here and actually bridged it. So there was a bit of the 5th district here separated from the bulk of the 5th district. So it was a natural to help draw this area of the 5th and put that in over on this part of Mill Creek to make this a much more compact and harmonious area here. Whereas the change to the 4th allowed it to come in and take over the area here that had been assigned to the 5th district and grow into a much more compact area here as well. So even though it might be stepping and jogging along the boundaries of the precincts to preserve whole precincts, this ends up being a fairly compact district as well. And compactness is a higher place in the law when it comes to redistricting. There are 5 criteria of redistricting. In section 4A, all of the population should be as equal as possible. This plan does maintain equal distribution fairly well. I can go back to that report here in a little bit. Number 2, we are not to have, it's supposed to be contiguous. So we can't have a little bit of the 5th here, a little bit of the 5th up here, and the bulk of the 5th over here. It must be compact. And third, section C is compactness. So we should have compact, logical districts. Number D is the not to favor nor disfavor part. And then lastly, and least important of the law, is areas of common interest. And so you could argue that the new annex of Mill Creek is an area of common interest and is an area that we should potentially look at making a commissioner district based out of it. But that is a lesser criterion than the others. So I did not take that as into consideration as much when I was drafting this plan. So that is the hierarchy of the law and how it approached my coming up with this plan. And I'll show you what the population is with this. That's just simply this. So we ended up with deviations less than 0.5 of a percentage. So pretty darn close in the way of equal in population as possible, based on the criterion of also using whole precincts where possible. So with only those two minor splits, these numbers are very rock solid. One other thing that you mentioned was, is this plan finalized? No, it is not finalized until you, the commission, say you want to move forward with this redistricting plan and then try to pursue adoption of it. So this is just my opinion on where a redistricting plan, based off of no other feedback from the commission other than knowing the physical addresses of the commission, the physical addresses of the 5 commission members with territory, and looking at it from purely a numbers to geography perspective. So that's how I came up with this.
Gotcha. Thank you for answering those questions.
No problem.
Oh, and by the way, quoting RCW numbers and sections by heart, you and I are bird of a feather sometimes.
Well, I've had this conversation a few times this year.
Sure. Thank you.
Next.
Commissioner Lawrence. Commissioner Lawrence, you had your hand up. You just disappeared.
I forgot what I was going to ask. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Commissioner Kenny, you have your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Schweitzer, can you zoom in a little bit back onto Mill Creek with
Sure.
the 5th, 4th, and 3rd districts coming together? So the 4th district, so the 3rd, 4th, yeah, there we go. So the 3rd, 4th, and 5th districts all have parts of Mill Creek.
Correct.
Okay.
So there is technically 3 commission districts within this annexed area of Mill Creek.
Okay.
So the border is roughly around this section, I believe, somewhere along here.
So I want to pick up on a theme from Commissioner Rowland and about the districts coming together at Mill Creek. And I guess it seems a little odd to me that 3 of the districts are going to represent Mill Creek, which has a population of about 20,000, 21,000. And the largest city in the RFA, Linwood, at 38,000, almost twice as big, only has 2. And so that just seemed odd to me that there would be more representation for Mill Creek potentially if Mill Creek wanted to have as many people from Mill Creek wanted to have as many seats as possible on the from districted positions. They would be able to get 3. From Linwood, it would be 2, and yet Linwood is twice as big. So that just seemed kind of odd to me that there would be 3 districts in Mill Creek as opposed to 2. When I envisioned it, I had actually envisioned it moving from the east to the west with districts 5 and I can't see the other, but the orange one splitting up Mill Creek.
Yeah, this is the 3rd district down here.
The 3rd district covering Mill Creek with 2.
Keep your hands off that orange section there, Jim.
So anyways, that was my thought at looking at it, but maybe,
well,
it's hard to say whether is that necessarily a good thing? Is it necessarily a bad thing? Does anybody really care?
Well, as what was brought up earlier, is these are purely for the representation. You are elected by the entire fire district, and so in that aspect, your electorate, you could be running for the position number 5 and receive 0 votes from your own district and still get elected to the fire district by voting into place by the rest of the fire district. So you represent the whole fire district. You just have to reside within your district to be elected. So it's a thing. And I agree. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Commissioner Kennedy, do you have any other?
Oh, no, sorry, no,
Okay, that's fine.
no other question.
Commissioner Lawrence, you have your hand up.
Yes, well, I'll take all of Mill Creek. You can change that to make Jim happy, Commissioner Kenny happy.
Oh, no, I want to split it with you.
Oh,
I want to
All right,
cut
we-
Mike out of it.
no, that's it. There you go. Now we're talking.
Commissioner Tia Flack.
I'm not sure who to answer this question, but when do we have to make a decision by on this?
The redistricting needs to be wrapped up for November 15th. But the rules might be slightly different since this is a redistricting based off of an annexation. So that would be a question for your lawyer to as to whether this must fall before the November 15th, or if there's a different law that governs how quickly after an annexation your redistricting needs to be approved.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Any other board members have liaison Todd?
Yeah, I would say, and this is a guess, I think when we were talking about this earlier, I think the drop dead date you can think about it would have to be when someone would file for election for November 2023, which would be in May. And so I don't know if that's a fact or not, but it might be later than November 15th, but it for sure has got to be far enough ahead of May that the elections people at Snohomish County can figure out how to put the materials out for you to file for office. So I think he's right that November 15th is the standard one, but there might be another month or two. I don't see Rich Davis on the call, but that would be indeed a question for him probably.
But yes, it needs to be done well in advance of the filing date for it to have an impact on the upcoming election. So that is definitely a given. So December would probably be a good thing to shoot for. So there is no real rush yet.
Melissa is checking with Rich as we speak. Commissioner Kenny?
Yeah, when Rich briefed us on this in June, he said we just needed to have it done by filing week as Mr. Todd indicated, next May for the general election, primary and general election in 2023, when the positions will be up for election. I was hoping to just give some thoughts about process, and that is my suggestion is that we come back to this in another meeting or 2 meetings, see what people think about it. If there's no great heartache over it, or, if we want changes, then we need to have, task Mr. Schweitzer with making changes. If we think it's basically good, we can say that. And then I suggest from there, we set a public hearing where we invite the public with a press release to come and take a look at the maps online, and then come to the meeting and give comments, and then take action either at that meeting, or if there's comments that we want to take into account, schedule another meeting after that. In the past, we have found that valuable to have public input, and we actually have made a change on the maps based on public input, so that can have value. And being that this deals with the public's vote, we probably want to make sure that, a lot of people may not be interested, but there may be some people that are interested, and we want to be sure we hear their vote. So I wouldn't want to be like pushing forward to a vote on this tonight. I think we need to have some public process here to make sure that the public is invited in. And if anybody has discomfort with what we decide is, gonna, the draft maps, that they have an opportunity to address the board. Because in the end, the board sets what the map is. And we want to make sure that we hear from the people on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny. I agree with you. Definitely not tonight. So.
Yeah, and actually, section 5 of the RCW outlines basically exactly what Jim had said.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Schweitzer from the board? Vice Chair Rowland?
Just one quick question. I know when the Washington State Redistricting Commission was doing all the congressional stuff, they had a really cool tool on their website. So you could go in and kind of mess with the borders and play around and look at it just to discover kind of where the population sits and all of that. That's no longer active now that they have final maps. Do you know of anything like that that's available just for our research purposes to understand the makeup of the communities and things like that?
No, but I do know that Snohomish County is actively working on a number of tools on their webpage, although they did lose their longtime GIS person there who was I believe, in charge of that. So that might be delayed.
Oh, okay. And the shape files that you're using, I've done a little GIS work in my past. The shape files you're using are just like the publicly available ones from the census or from the county?
The geography is the 2020 census blocks, and the from the census Tiger Line files, and then the demographics is the public law 94-171. I'm not actually using shape files. That is a term used with ESRI type products. My GIS software predates ESRI's shape files. I've been around a little longer than them.
Gotcha. All right.
All right. Any further questions from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Todd.
So I think I heard if the RCW has a prescribed process that kind of lines with what Commissioner Kenny said. Could we, I'm hoping that staff would lay out what those steps are and how many weeks it would take. And then Rich Davis can also tell us what a drop dead date is, but I'd love to see those things written down that would help other people interface with the process. To suggest that if the public wants to be involved, they can get a flavor for next weeks after this, we would be doing that. So kind of laying out the project steps.
Well, the RCW just says that you must have a public meeting before the adoption. Notice is required at least a week in advance. The information must be posted 10 days in advance, and that public comment be allowed during those meetings. So it's the very rough saying of exactly what Mr. Kenny had said as well.
Yeah, he rattled it off real quick, but that RCW, I have it up on my screen. Like I said, I'm a nerd. That RCW again is, if you want to write it down, I could probably have a link to it emailed out to, but it's 29A.76.010, and that section 5 talks about that, and it's pretty straightforward. And then section 6 talks about if we do a bad job redistricting, what could happen?
Well, it's not necessarily a bad job. It's just that somebody takes exception to it, and that they only have 30 days in which to file for, a grievance for it, and they must reside within the district. A new part of that law is that if they're doing it simply to be a nuisance, you are allowed to sue them back. So that was a nice little added feature to keep down some of the frivolous gerrymandering lawsuits that had been thrown around in other states.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer, for your thorough report.
Yeah, it's always fun working with you guys.
Thank you. we will have some conversations now with this new information. At this time, I'm going to call for a 10-minute break. So we will come back together here. Let's make it at an even 8:45. There we go, 8:35 on my clock. So we'll come back at 8:45. I'll see you guys then. Safe on the road. So waiting for a couple more commissioners. Then we'll have some fireworks. I mean, we'll be on to the discussion of fireworks.
Maybe we should ban fireworks in our meetings.
Commissioner Kenny, are you with us? I saw Commissioner Teoflat blurb on, so I know he's nearby.
I gotta take care of a baby real quick, so I'm gonna be back
Not
soon.
a problem. Commissioner Lawrence, are you with us? All right, I'll give them just another minute.
I will say in Mill Creek, we've been testing different versions of timers, and Zoom now has a timer that the clerk can put on behind her screen. So you can set that for 10 minutes, and when it comes down, then the fireworks go off or the chair makes a statement. So you might look at that as a possibility.
Thank you.
Negative. The city of Mill Creek has banned fireworks since its inception.
Yeah, it goes clear back to the Chinese. From the very first Chinese invented them, we've said no the whole time.
That's crazy because, you know, Washington State became a state in 1889. And all right, let's go ahead and begin. AC Fitzgerald.
Hi,
Go into
Commissioners.
the plan of action for fireworks.
Very good. And thank you for staff. We're certainly appreciative of the board's continued interest in fireworks safety. Tonight, we have an opportunity for the commission to formally accept a fireworks reduction plan. That plan that was presented last week. So beginning in your packet on page 64 is a summary of that fireworks reduction plan presented August 9th. You'll remember that last week there were a couple commissioner comments that were made, and those have been incorporated. Lori is now showing you slide 11 from last week's presentation, which shows the addition of 2 stakeholder groups that were unfortunately not included in your packet for this week. Those were suggested last week. As you'll note, that's the cities as a stakeholder group, and certainly veterans groups as well. On page 68 of the packet is the list of all retail fireworks locations within unincorporated Snohomish County over the 2022 Independence Day holiday. And then also you'll be reminded on page 69 that King County adopted a ban on fireworks sales and discharge countywide. Finally, on pages 70 through 72 is a draft letter to City Council for the Commission's consideration. And Chair, with the stakeholder additions that we depicted to slide 11 on page 67 of tonight's packet, Chief Hovis and I certainly welcome any questions, and we respectfully ask for the Commission's action to adopt the proposed fireworks reduction plan.
Thank you, Chief Fitzgerald, for also including the list of the business permits for the fireworks stands in unincorporated areas of Snohomish County. Commissioner Chan, you have your hand up.
Chief Fitzgerald, that's a great job in here. I really like the letter. You clear 4 points really nicely, and that's consideration. I do have a questions on a couple other things in here. The map that you produced at the back, what's the source from that?
Well, there's
Define
multiple
incident.
data sources. Geographically, the data is within our own GIS with, Steve Wheeler is our GIS professional, and
Right.
but as far as the fireworks incidents, which are depicted, and the retail fireworks stands, those come from county sources. The 911 incidents those are direct from Snohomish County 911 or Snow
Right.
911. And then the permitted locations that are depicted there is kind of the asterisk that you see on the map. Those come from the county fire marshal's office as the location of the permitted fireworks stand, retail stand locations within unincorporated Snohomish County.
Just look at the fire incident in Snohomish County, that map with all the red dots in there. I thought that's a very powerful, because we are the one who been, I think because of population, that's where we have more incident than area that's not banned. Am I reading that right? Is that correct?
Well, it's possible, but I also think it's possible that there's some unintended bias here when we look at this map. We are certainly we asked for this information before the July 4th holiday. And so there were various interest groups and data sources who were knowing that we were going to be asking for that, whereas other locations did not, presumably did not. But it certainly does appear, in fact, when you look at this, that you're exactly correct.
I was wondering, should we just go ahead and no comment, just attach this with the letter?
And my understanding is that was the ask of some of the commissioners specifically or individually. And I think it does represent very well the experience, not only within South County Fire, but countywide as well. So I would certainly support that.
Yeah, a picture isn't speak 1,000 words, whatever, 1,000,000 words, because that map itself is very convincing to me that we have a lot of problems there for incidents. Yeah, so that's one suggestion. And also, in your, I like the word action plan. Not the action plan. You said request the county fire marshals and request Snohomish County sheriff. But in your action plan, you didn't have any kind of action plan. I think it's important to have a meeting with the sheriff. Well, I know there's no 911. Chair Daniel, you still have a work with us under sheriff in the committee in Stu 911, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think easily to have a meeting today and a meeting with the sheriff, with the fire marshal on the record. So at least not just requests, but having discussions. I think that would be great. Otherwise, it's perfect. I think I applaud to the staff and the chief of this. This is we got to continue, putting the pressure. The plan's great. I completely support this.
The only thing I would
Thank
add
you.
to what Commissioner Chan said was that we should include the prosecutor, because that was one thing that the deputies realized, is that they were writing the citations, but there was no real follow through.
Yeah,
from
no,
the justice
the
side.
prosecutor too. Yeah, have a meeting with prosecutor too. That would be
And
great.
Just to respond to that, Commissioner, you're absolutely correct. And the way staff works is if we're sending a letter off or we know that a letter's on its way, we make those phone calls to those folks and we say, hey, let's get together. Let's talk about these things. By the way, you have a letter that's coming from our elected body, and we want to get together and talk about it. So that's definitely in the plan. Maybe it's not denoted as such, but that's our process for sure.
Yeah,
Thank
good. If you add it to that, then we know that that's the real plan. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
It was also my understanding that it was a letter plus a data package. And so part of that data package was this incident map, as well as the, I requested that they include the list of consumer firework retail stands, because when I've spoken with other sitting county council members, they've commented that they've been selling inside the city limits. And so I didn't really have a way to try and correct them in some fashion. And so having these permit numbers and whatnot from the county allows for a better conversation So Commissioner Lawrence, you have your hand up.
Yes, this requires a motion and a vote to implement.
Correct. It was a motion and a
Okay.
vote to go ahead and send the letter.
What's the fireworks action plan? Is that the name of it?
Yeah. I
We
think
have it
that's
titled for you as fireworks
Agenda bill.
reduction plan.
the reduction plan.
Fireworks reduction plan. Okay, different from the agenda. Okay. The fireworks, I make the motion to accept the fireworks reduction plan.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Chan. All right, we'll continue on with discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Lawrence. Vice Chair Rowland.
Yeah, great information. I like everything that I'm seeing. Two minor asks, and one really isn't an ask, it's just kind of an observation. In the letter itself, I would like to see us thank them, up front for their partnership with this and their support, throughout the time, just kind of starting out with honey and, instead of just going straight to the ask, but that's not a super important one. The one thing I would like to see, if we're going to be sending this map out to them, can we change those black dots to yellow or something that stands out? Because right now they really blend in there and they're hard to see where those fireworks stands are. I know it's a minor thing, but I think it would really help to really show what's going on in a way that they can see. So that's my only two things.
Yeah, label them with a skull and crossbones on each part.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Kenny.
I just have Chief Fitzgerald, one suggestion on a correction on the letter. Second page, paragraph 3, change arrest to cite, CITE, because it's a class 1 civil infraction. Police cannot arrest for that. They can only cite for it. And there may be some way that fireworks law could be crafted into a criminal charge, but I don't think the county has gone there, and it's pretty unlikely to go there. I don't know that it's necessary, just that they cite and prosecute would be enough for us, so that they actually do something with those. I think that's the key, not necessarily that people get arrested and thrown in jail. That could actually hurt our cause. So I would just suggest change arrest to cite, CITE, meaning issuing citations, and because I think that's really what we want them to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny. Chief Hovis.
Since I failed to mention this in our fire chief report, and this is our last meeting of the month, and Sheriff Fortney and the county prosecutor were mentioned, I forwarded to Melissa Blankenship, and she will forward to you commissioners tomorrow an invitation we received from Snohomish County Sheriff Fortney for the first ever street fair to build stronger community relationships. There'll be a number of agencies there. It'll be at 128th and 8th, very near headquarters, and about the site of 2 or 3 different candidates running for Snohomish County prosecutor. That'll almost get you there, but it'll be a great event. Starts at 10:30, goes until 3:30. So that will be, it would be maybe nice to have some commissioners there if you're able to attend. So you'll see that later. That's all I have.
What day is that?
Saturday, August 27th. Setup is at 10:30. Event begins at 11. Event ends at 1500. And then cleanup will be for about 30 minutes. We'll have Air 15 there, Station 11, a number of members of our team. So focusing on a number of issues, you will have an invite forwarded to you by Melissa Blankenship whenever tonight, if she gets to it, or tomorrow. It's called the Street Fair, hosted by Snohomish County Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Todd?
Yeah, thanks. I shouldn't be wordsmithing, but I'm reading this. I think in the letter, it's got 4 points there, and I don't disagree with the points, but I'm thinking wording wise, I think we're giving them a choice of the easiest or the simplest thing is please just put a ban on sale of fireworks where you've already banned their discharge. the way it's reading, it says implement a countywide ban. My alarms go off. Countywide, countywide, countywide. And it's not countywide, it's countywide where their discharge is not allowed. I suggest we think about the wordsmithing of that to turn it into not an immediate no for somebody who is thinking, I'm way east, I'm way north, I don't want to do this, is a suggestion. And the other thing is make sure that they understand, I think there's kind of a range of options here. Maybe we're trying to give them choices. So they'll say we like number 1, but we can't do 4 or whatever. But I think we also need to make it clear that what we're asking them so that they don't get all wrapped up in debating the words and then get stuck, in a word battle. Give real clear choices, A or B or nothing at all or something like that. I think you're using some PR folks to help you. So maybe this is still crafted by those kinds of folks. So I don't mean to overrule them or go beyond what they've said. But I think we should think carefully about how we put this to elected council members and make sure they don't get wrapped up in some political thing. They don't have to, if we can make it easy for them by just talking about what's most important to us, which is the South County MOGA. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Vice Chair Rowland.
Yeah, I definitely echo that, taking out the county-wide area or, put in a matching ban on fireworks sale anywhere fireworks discharge is not allowed. But I would say that I don't think, and maybe I'm on a different page here, that this is we want 1, and if they don't give us 2, 3, and 4, that's fine. This is kind of a holistic solution, because if we just ban the sale of fireworks, people go up to Boom City, they go out just outside of the unincorporated area, and these stands will still be there. They'll still have them, and they'll still be lighting them off in the middle of the street where cars are driving. So I think the 2 through 4 are important as well. 1 will only help with the people that live in the area that may be confused about the ban, but it's not going to do anybody that doesn't give a care about the ban. Is just going to light them off and create problems regardless of it. So I definitely think, at least on the record, that we support all 4 of these things being all part of the solution. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rowland. AC Fitzgerald, do you think we could make those adjustments to the letter and then bring it back to the September meeting?
Certainly, if you'd like to see this again in front of the commission for action, we can bring it back. We staff will incorporate these additional comments, focusing on the SWUGA, the Southwest Urban Growth Area, that really South County Fire serves almost entirely. And some map edits. There's some other things that staff have recognized on that map that we want to change as well. So if you'd like us to bring it back before action, we can certainly do that. You bet.
We're still in discussion portion of the motion, but I think that there's enough edits that have been requested, and I agree with Vice Chair Rowland about beginning with honey. That I think that would be good to bring it back and then have agreement on the letter before sending it off. Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, I withdraw the motion. And I'd like to say this is another example of how the board and the staff and everybody else in the RFA works as a team here, and with some good suggestions to smooth out the action plan.
I withdraw my second too.
Oh, you beat me to it. Thank you very much, Commissioner Chan. All right, so we look forward to you bringing this back here to the September meeting with the updates.
Very good. Thank you, commissioners, and good evening.
Thank you. Now we are on to Bylaws Committee with Vice Chair Rowland. Committee updates.
Yes, so let me get the right page on my notepad here. I am unmuted too. Good. Bear with me just a moment. So just as kind of an update, what was it, on Thursday, we met with the 3 registered parliamentarians in the area to kind of interview them. give me just a moment. I'm gonna find this here. It is. Apologize. Just had it. Here it is. Thank you. All right. Yeah, so we met with Mr. Paul McClintock, Kevin Connolly, and John Berg, and they all have a lot of experience. After reviewing them, the consensus of the committee was that we were recommending the hiring of Kevin Connolly for this role. His rate for this, I believe, was $150 an hour, and that was in line with his contemporaries. So there was nobody, far off that range. Yeah, we'd like to basically get approval to engage Kevin Connolly's services. And I think what we are recommending right now is a cap of $3,500 for the total project, just as a top end cap, so that the board is comfortable with the most it would cost. Yeah, that's what I have.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, I make a motion to accept that hiring of that person and everything else that Mike has said there.
Second.
So if I may, I could just, the language of the motion would be to engage the services of Kevin Conley, PRP, to aid in the amendment of, or the revision of the bylaws with a cap of $3,500 for the initial approved budget.
Oh, that sounds much better.
I know Melissa's over there typing it furiously, so hopefully I didn't speak too fast there, rattling off motions. So just want to make sure we got the language right.
All right, so the motion on the floor is what Vice Chair Rowland just spoke of with for an individual. What was his name? Vice Chair Rowland?
Kevin Conley.
Kevin Conley for a cap of $3,500. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by the same. Motion passes. All right, we are on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, a number of months back, I brought up the subject of fast tracking of RFA firefighters, paramedics, so that we have a pipeline for staff, personnel, deputy chief, assistant chief, chief. And that's something that Commissioner Kenny and I were, I'd say, slightly passionate about. And so I can't remember exactly what was said by the staff about these type of things, but I would like to keep that on the burner. And I'd like, when there's hopefully time, to the staff to come up with a written plan for that. So that's just something I want to bring to your attention again there, chiefs, all the chiefs and the staff.
Oh, sorry, Chief Hobus.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Lawrence, I couldn't quite catch the beginning of what you were saying. Were you saying professional development, successorship, or was we tough? He said, I thought he said
whatever, some kind of a program so that you recognize certain young, new fire personnel and that have joined the RFA that have the potential, that want to be, to cultivate it, because unlike the military, even the merchant marine, where I came out of, there's an officer corps, and there isn't one in police. Don't come out as an officer, and it's probably a real problem. So I think we need to be recognizing early on what people have the potential, and it's not like a secret thing. It's just let everybody know that we're looking for people that want to fast track. that want to be on the staff.
Sure.
Not just get the battalion chief and sit there for years and years. Because we all know that's where money is. So, okay. And that's where I would have been, but
Yeah.
so that was fast track. Okay. So anyway, that's the idea. We need to have something formalized, codified, documented.
Actually, I appreciate the comments, and I can't remember exactly what we talked about, but I do want to commend staff, commission, and IFF Local 1828, because many of those things are in the collective bargaining agreement. I want to thank the commission again for revoting and reaffirming that contract, because part of what we talked about previously was termed commonly in the fire services unsiloing and providing developments laterally, where you can go up into different ways. And so that's going to help with that. And I, as the son of a veteran and speaking with you as a veteran and members of our staff that are watching our commission, you're talking about a fast track to an NCO type program, or as an NCO or an ensign, that it may be OCS or officer candidate school might be a choice that they could make, but identifying those people and putting them on an educational and professional development pathway to, achieve whatever they want to be, to help grow in our organization, help our organization grow.
Yeah, because sooner or later you're going to retire. Chief Fitzgerald's going to retire, and
yep.
Well, I don't think Chief Isotalo will ever retire, though. I don't think so. So we're going to have a problem there. We don't have guys ready to take their place. Well, Chief Eastman, he got a deal. He's never going to retire either. We'll just go fishing in Minnesota together.
Well, age and experience are sometimes come at different times, and I'm going to take Commissioner Chan's. He's got his hand up, but I will say, mention I don't have a whole bunch of gray hair yet, but other people like Chief Eastman who isn't here went gray pretty darn early in his career. But we definitely want to identify, the talents and energies and interests of people. So we're making, yeah. So anyway, I started with thanks. So thank you for getting the collective bargaining agreements for the supervisory DC group done. And then now for our line firefighters up to battalion chief, we've made some gains there. So thank you for re-bringing it to the radar, and I'll have to think about what time we bring it. So I'll make a note, and I see the chiefs did as well. So thank you, sir.
Vice Chair Rowland.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I was monitoring the elections results, and there were 4 fire districts that had levies up, the 21st, the 26th, and the 5th and the 17th, and 3 of them passed by over 60%, but Fire District 21 was unable to pass their levy. And just looking in the voter pamphlet, the only real difference I saw between everything was that explanatory statement. For the other 3, almost like carbon copies, and they did something a little bit different, a little bit simpler. But maybe that's the explanation. I'm not too sure, but it is something to be aware of, that fire levy lifts are not automatics, and that we need to make sure that we're doing them at the right times, and that we are giving the right explanations and the right information to voters based off of what we can glean from these these successful and failed levy measures, because I'm sure they're going to be scrambling, trying to figure out what they're going to do now to be able to fund their fire service. But hopefully the voters there will revisit this and help to fund them. But yeah, just something to be aware of locally here. It's not too far away, so it can be as simple as just a small blurb in a voter pamphlet, or it could be something bigger. But something to be aware of either way.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair, did you say Snohomish County Fire District 21, Arlington Heights was the one that failed the levy?
Yes, 21. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The Arlington Heights area. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair Rowland. Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Commissioner Bowen said, but I think we have to be, and also that I thought one of the things that the last, since I was here, that I think we need to focus on the budget and finance part of it. Chief Hoover, you're unusual that you're pretty savvy on that pretty quickly, but I think the rest of the deputy chief, whoever goes up, will really need to a strong kind of business management and finance part of it. I know that usually not in your curriculum situation. Don't we still have that? I forget what it's called. MBA, something like fire chief for a advanced degree type of thing. What was it called?
There's a managing fire officer, executive fire officer.
That's
There's a certification from CFOD. There's an NFA program plus the educational programs that are out there, kind of the flat part of it. Some people that you see out there have all those things. Some people that have been here before. So it's
Right.
careful. It's you need to parallel the right people, the right training, the right time, and you know, make sure that the rubber meets the road behind what's behind your name. But I agree with you. There is some opportunities out there, and coming out of COVID, it'll make it better. EFO and the managing fire officer from the National Fire Academy and those entities sort of slowed down during COVID. But you're right. It's those are all great programs out there, and there's others too. But I know we're getting
Right.
late.
I mean, I know it's that have to negotiate the local. I know that is part of it. But at the same time, though, I do concern. I work with a lot of company. If you have like heir apparents, suddenly the situation change. So it's difficult. Suddenly we got a new fire chief, whatever. We have to be careful like that. And so that not, you know, that's my opinion. A lot of situations that it's kind of like Seahawks, you know, you still every year the trial is not, you're going to automatically step up as the true quarterback, right? So you still have to compete every single opening of every single season. Need to do that, right?
Well, you kind of made me smile because I gave one of the books Pete Carroll has written to Chief Isotelo not so long ago to talk about that philosophy that the Seahawks have. But yeah, you're right. You always need to be, you know, looking at talent that's out there and really enabling them and challenging people. So we've got a great organization, and your points that you made and Commissioner Lawrence has made, they're not lost on us. So, and again, back to the contract, those programs that you asked about, those are now embedded in the collective bargaining agreement for our uniform personnel to be able to aspire to, and they're written in the contract. So again, thanks for all the work from the team and commission, and as well as the local. So thank you.
Commissioner Kenny.
Thank you. I don't think the board has resolved the bylaws amendment for the Mill Creek representative, Mr. Todd. It was in the packet, but not on the agenda at the last meeting. Commissioner Rowland had prepared the materials for that, and there was nothing in the packet, and it wasn't on the agenda tonight. I think we need to have that on the agenda with Commissioner Rowland's materials, and it noted on the agenda that it's a bylaws amendment. So we comply with the bylaws. I suggest we do that for our next meeting or sometime soon, because we can't let that straggle out there. We need to resolve that and take care of that issue. So that is something that I recommend we handle soon.
We can add that to unfinished business. Thank you.
And then something that I like to have after the first 6 months of the year or so, and we haven't done it this year, I'd like to see the automatic and mutual aid data for the first 6 months of this year for all our adjoining jurisdictions. I find that helpful to me to see how it changes over time, and so that it essentially involves the issue of fairness. Are we fairly operating in conjunction with our neighboring jurisdictions, or are we subsidizing them, or are they subsidizing us? And how is that playing out over time? It's good to look at that twice a year. I like to look at it after the first 6 months and then after the end of the year. Haven't seen that recently, so that's something I'm hoping Chief Hovis will incorporate into his report or a separate report sometime in the near future, so we can look at what's going on in the first 6 months of 2022 with auto and mutual aid. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input, Commissioner Kenny. Commissioner Chan.
Well, Commissioner Kenny can remind me, we used to have a dashboard report, and now we have hired a statistic data analyst person. maybe I don't want to put more pressure on Chief Hovis. Are we able to see that dashboard report soon?
It's in the works, and the first request should be no problem to come up with now that we're past the 6-month point. So I can include that in a future fire chief report that I could send by email, Commissioner Kenny, to hit your second request that I have control of. No problem. And as far as the dashboard, we're still working on the forward facing piece of that to move past what we've done just strictly with response data, but we're not quite there yet, but we look forward to doing that and bringing that to the future. And it'd be something that could be standing, even forward facing. We talked about the website earlier, having something that's forward facing to our internal stakeholders about how we're doing. This ties into some other items too, but we're just not there yet. And we want to, looking at Chief Isotelo, and the chiefs here, there's a lot of metrics that we can bring in there.
Yes.
So we want to make it good. But anyway.
Yeah, actually, I would like to be a standalone kind of agenda. And so we can have a little more discussions and
sure
questions for that.
In the meantime, we are your dashboard through the fire chief reports and the supplemental, but we would like to automate that as well. And so appreciate the comments.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
To that point, given Commissioner Kenny, your hand is still up. Did you still? Okay, just checking. To Commissioner Chan's point with the dashboarding and whatnot, since that's what I do in my professional life, just feel free to hit me up for some assistance, data warehousing and analytics. Mr. Todd.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to Melissa for helping onboard me and for the welcome everybody's had. It's been a fun month of August, but I get to go back to my crazy job of city council meetings on the first, second, and fourth Tuesday of the month, starting in September. My intention is to at least send a note to staff and to the chair prior to each meeting to say, I think I can join at 7:30 or 7:45, or I don't know when. But if I show up late, it's not because I'm boycotting anything. It's because I got to balance 2 different jobs. So I'm going to do the best I can to do both jobs, but it's going to be a challenge going forward. So trust me, I'm there, I'm listening, and I will sure listen to meetings afterwards, and I'll look at packets ahead of time and do the best I can to juggle both things. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I just remember I think I saw Melissa send over that the conventions in October. I think especially all the new commissioner, I really encourage to go attending a meeting. It's really especially the seminar before that. That's a really give you a good orientation and also get to know other commissioner. Totally encourage it.
Thank you, Commissioner Chan. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and conclude the commissioner comments and move into executive session to review the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 subsection G. Melissa, we have a separate email with that information. Is that right?
How long would you like the session initially?
Let's start with 15 minutes and then we can extend as necessary.
And do you anticipate taking any action?
I do not.
Thank you. The executive session has been extended for 10 minutes. The executive session has been extended by 5 minutes. The executive session has been extended for 5 minutes. The executive session has been extended for 5 minutes. The executive session has been extended for 5 minutes. The regular meeting has been brought back to order at 10:03 p.m. and without objection, the regular meeting has been adjourned at 10:03 p.m.